Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with some old school magic here, and today I'm gonna talk about a deck, which one is a very powerful contender in the format. 2, it can be built on a budget, and 3, it's one of the most classic deck you can ever imagine of for old school, and this is no other than mono black rack, with a little bit of different twist on it, but not too many cards difference. But let's just walk through in the beginning the core basic game plan of the deck, and we start off with one of the most iconic cards printed in black color, Dark Ritual, which gives us 3 black mana for the cost of 1 black mana. So on turn 1, technically, if you are a swarm, you can generate 3 mana. Why do we want to generate 3 mana early on? To deploy Hypnotic Spectre, which is one of the best creatures in the format. It's 2/2 flyer, and when it hits the opponent, they discard a card at random. So this card would still be insane even in today's standard, which is usually not true for most old school card. Or we can use him to Turak to reduce our opponent hand size, or Mind Step Tool, which is a little which is a very interesting card. It's like a 2/2 for 3 mana, and when it hits the opponent, we can choose it instead of damage. We sacrifice it, and then the opponent discards 3 cards. And obviously, just for good measure, showing that we are serious about our business, we have the Disrupting Specters, which is a lot of mana investment, 3 mana and 3 to discard every card, but it's a constant source of discard, so make sure that our opponent will never have cards in hand after a certain point. So this is 12 discard elements so far, and the 13th is the Mind Twist, which is technically played in every single deck in old school which plays a swamp. So this is our discard suite. So what we're trying to do is strip our opponents from their cards so they can't interact with our game plan, and also it plays to our win con, which is no other than the rack. So if they have 0 card in hand, they take 3 damage. So any card less than 3, they take a damage for that. So that's very effective with this game plan. We try to strip the resources, then deploy a rack, and basically watch the rack to finish off the opponent. Or we can use Order of the Abundant. Again, at this point, when we start really attacking heavily with this one, our opponent should be stripped from all the removal from hand, and things of that nature. And we have Sanger Vampire, which is basically the Air Force in the deck. So this is kind of the core finishers, and we will see in the mana base that we have a few Mishra's Factory running around. And obviously, we're trying to eliminate the threats before they even hit the board by discarding them, but sometimes things like sneak through the crack, so we need a couple of removal here. We have Chaos Orb, which is basically a staple in old school. It's good in every single deck. So 1 Chaos Orb, 2 Drain Lives, 1 Arena, which is really good with this Sanger Vampire here. So we can use the Arena, kill a creature, attack for 5, and then on the swing back we can also kill another creature, because this really can put put the nail in the coffin when it comes to the race. And Maze of It, that's just another removal spell in my book against good creatures. And then we have a couple of classic back cards here, the 2 Greed and the Demonic Tutor. Again, I would like to point out that Greed is really good with Drain Life, so we can sink that mana into Greed and draw more cards, and Demonic Tutor is just finds everything. Again, super staple card played in every single black deck on the horizon. And let's look at the mana base. So Library of Alexandria, this is a classic. Well, if you have a library, you play a library in most of the cases, but don't worry if you don't. This can be replaced by a Jayme Tome or another Greed in this particular deck, would just be equally fine. So, and maybe Greed is even better, because we don't need always the cards in hand to make it active. So if it arrives later, Greed is absolutely not that card, versus Library in many cases, yes. Mishra's Factory. Yeah, so the factories are also an integral part of the game plan. If they can chip away a few points of damage, the racks can really add up on the top of that. And we have 3 strip mines. So this is 8 colorless source, and we don't really want it to go over 8 colorless sources, because really would like to emphasize that play pattern when we have a swamp and a dark creature early on, and then we can go off with a Hypnotic Spectre. And having too many colorless land will increase the chances of having draws where we don't draw any color. And you could also see that there's a lot of double black symbols in the deck, so we would like to make sure that we have the required number of color sources. So speaking of this, yeah, we have like a good oh no, probably like 15 swamps here. Yeah, 14 swamp and a bottomless vault. So it's, yeah, 14 swamp and a bottomless vault. So bottomless vault I would like to highlight because this is also a very interesting card which I was talking about. Hollow trees, that's the green version in the green deck, and this is the same storage land, comes into play tap, we can choose not to untap it, and then in that case put a charge counter on it, and when we tap it for mana we can remove X number of charge counters and add a black for each of them, which is really good against the, you know, previously mentioned drain life. We can fuel our greed, so that's kind of like a nice mini engine going on here. And we have a Mox, a Soaring, and a Black Lotus, and a Urborg, which is kind of a utility land. So again, the classic replacement apply. Black Lotus can be replaced by a Mana Vault. Lotus has a lot better in this deck because it can help us to the turn 1 Hypnotic Spectre, but the Mana Vault is still a nice replacement, especially that we play higher up on the curve with Mind Twist and the Sanger Vampires. The Mox can just be a Swamp or a Felwar Stone, and Soaring is not a particularly expensive card in the deck. So this is our main deck, and let's take a look quickly on our sideboard. So the sideboard, again, a classic deck. Black card, Underworld Dreams. This is very good against control decks. So the idea with Underworld Dreams that what we want to do is again go into the classic Swamp Dark Creature Underworld Dreams, and that would immediately put pressure on our opponent, because no matter what they have to finish the game within 20 turns, which seems like a lot, but don't forget that we have Drain Life our deck, Mishra's Factories, Knights chipping away, so they have to be really careful not to take excess damage, and especially while we are starting to discard their cards, so they usually don't or can't really cobble together the resources to finish us on time before the Underworld Dreams kills them. So yep, that's as far as Underworld Dreams. Really good against control. Gloom, good against any white deck, which is, you know, they have White Knight, Order of the Ebon Hand, which is protection from our deck, and Gloom can kind of even this battlefield because we don't play Black Knight in our version. Plus also it's very good against the deck, surprisingly, because they have a lot of like white removal, which this can hold, or the Sarah Angel version of the deck. So Gloom is also excellent. Animate Dead, this is either good to reanimate our creatures like Hypnotic Spectre or Sanger Vampire to put in the last few points of damage, or if our opponent has beefy creatures which we manage to discard, we can reanimate those. I'm not sure how good it is against reanimator decks. I guess it's a kind of hedge, because probably they have more of these type of effects, so we're not gonna be the first one who is reanimating their things, or we have to be really patient with it to make sure that we can have a turn where we can discard and animate that immediately. So this is as far as animate that concerned. And now if our opponent is really heavily aggro, we have the removal suite, 3 Terror, good against small creatures, big creatures, good against any creatures. Royal Assassin, repeatable removal in black, Drain Life, again against super aggressive strategies, not only removes creatures but also gain us life, so it kind of puts us back to the race. And Paralyze, which is kind of the black Swords to Plowshares, almost the best removal spell in black. So we can really sideboard up well against aggressive decks here, and that's really the deck and the sideboard. I would highly recommend playing the deck. I'm playing it since a few weeks, and I'm really having a blast running this strategy. And as I mentioned, you really don't need all the power cards or the library for that matter. There are budget replacement, and the deck is equally competitive because the core game plan is not revolving around any of the expensive cards. What we really want to do, get into the board early, discard our opponent's hand, and then put down a finisher which will eventually reduces their life total. It's a fairly simple strategy with a huge flavor, because this is really flavorful what Black tried to do, remove cards, kill things. So I think it's for any new player, this is an excellent way to get into the old school format. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment below, what do you think about the strategy, would you like to give it a try or not. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thanks again for watching, and see you guys next time with some more old school magic.